You don't wake up, you emerge, like something scraped out of sleep, heavy, wet, clinging to sweat-soaked straw and a silence too thick to breathe. There are days when the body resists leaving the bed, but today, it's the soul that hesitates. The air smells like last night gave up, not just on you, on everything. Wood smoke that never lit, bread that never rose, flesh that never cooled, and underneath it all, that creeping scent of rot, soft but certain, like something dead behind the walls, too tired to hide anymore. You sit up, slowly, carefully, as if the air might shatter. Your blanket is a rag with memories. Your shirt, if you can call it that, is stiff with yesterday's sweat. Your feet touch the dirt floor. It's damp. It always is. But this morning, it feels judgmental, like the ground knows something you don't. The rooster crows, once, hesitant, as if unsure of its own purpose. There is no echo, no barking dog, no shout from the baker, no cough from old Thomas 3 doors down. Just nothing. The village is too still, not calm, not peaceful, just unnaturally paused. You step outside. The fog has teeth, cold and yellowish, clinging to everything like a second skin. Your breath comes out in clouds, but it feels like the only movement in the world. Even the trees look like they're holding their breath. You wait, but nothing greets you. No clatter of pails, no creak of carts, no children fighting over bread crusts. Even the flies seem quiet, and that's when you notice them. Dozens, on the threshold next door, buzzing in slow, lazy spirals. You don't look inside. You don't need to. Old Marta hasn't left her house in days. You swallow, but there's nothing in your throat. Just the taste of fear, metallic and old, like licking a rusted spoon. You try to speak, maybe call out, but your voice doesn't trust the air, and the silence doesn't deserve to be broken. Your body moves, but your mind stays behind, curled under that ragged blanket, bargaining. Maybe this is just a cold morning. Maybe they're all just sleeping in. Maybe you're the one who's strange, standing out here like a scarecrow waiting for crops that won't grow. But deep down, you know, something died in the night, and it might have been God. You wander, not far, just enough to confirm what your bones already suspect. The door to the chapel is barred from the outside. The bakery is empty, the fire cold. A dog lies in the middle of the path, not sleeping, just still and bloated. There's no sound but your own breath and the faint wet squelch of mud under your feet. Even the wind seems reluctant, brushing past you like a stranger afraid to linger. Then you hear it. A cough, not yours. Close. You freeze, turn. A face in the window. Pale. Watching. Unmoving. It disappears. You don't follow. You don't need to. There's nothing to do. Nowhere to go. The world has shrunk to this street, this fog, this breath in your lungs that you're not sure you want to keep. You sit on the cold stone step outside your door, and you wait for a sign, for the cart, for the sky to crack, for someone to scream, for something, anything, to make this feel real. But it already is. And somehow, that's worse, because you've woken up, and that means you still have to survive. It's morning, at least the part of morning where hunger begins to gnaw louder than fear. You haven't eaten since yesterday, or was it the day before? Time, in a plague village, isn't counted in hours. It's measured in losses, in absences. The baker is gone, not metaphorically, not on a journey. Gone, as in, found slumped over his own kneading table 2 nights ago, hands still dusted with flour like snow on a corpse. No one touched him, no one dared. But the bread stayed. You eye the small loaf on your shelf. It's yesterday's. Maybe. The crust is so hard it could be used to break a window or a nose. The color has shifted. A soft bloom of something green is spreading near the edge. You think, is it mold? Is it penance? Is it punishment? Because food in these times isn't just food, it's theology. The village used to pray before meals. Now they pray at meals. Each bite a gamble. Each crumb a communion of terror. Is this how sin tastes? Musty, bitter, with the afterthought of death? You tear off a piece. It resists, like it doesn't want to be eaten. You chew slowly. The texture is somewhere between sponge and bark. Your teeth ache from the effort. And still, you swallow. Because hunger doesn't negotiate. But your stomach remembers stories. That mold could be a sign of rot, of poison, of God's wrath. You've heard whispers that the grain was cursed, that the rats walked across the sacks at night, whispering to each other in the devil's language, that the flour was ground from fields touched by death. You sit, waiting, for the twisting, for the cramp, for the judgment. Nothing. And that, somehow, is even worse, because now you have to do it again. Tonight, tomorrow, every day until the bread runs out, or your luck does. You visit the bakery, just to see, just to check. The door is open. The smell hits first, not just decay, but the sweet sour scent of yeast gone wrong, like wine that wept itself to death. You step inside. The oven is cold, a dead mouth with ashes like bad teeth. You find a loaf, several actually, left in baskets, as if the village forgot what hunger was, or decided it was safer to starve. You touch one. It's soft, too soft, as if it's already halfway digested by time itself. Still, you take it, because in this world, salvation comes in ugly forms, and a soft, maybe tainted loaf is better than an empty belly, or so you tell yourself. Walking back, you pass Anna. She's 9, or was. Her eyes follow the loaf, not you, just the bread. Her mouth twitches like it wants to speak, or scream, or bite. You give her a piece. She doesn't thank you. She just runs. You wonder if you've just killed her. Because that's what the plague does. It weaponizes kindness, turns mercy into potential murder. Every act of sharing is a roll of the dice, and the house always wins. Later, you hear voices, at the well, arguing. Someone's baking again, one says. Are they mad? Or possessed? Don't touch it. It's the devil's yeast. The conversation splinters into whispers. You walk faster. You hide the loaf under your shirt. Bread, the sacred, the daily, the blessed, has become contraband. You feel like a thief, or worse, a priest of some forbidden rite, breaking bread not to share, but to survive, to curse, to gamble. That night, you dream of ovens, of mouths filled with ashes, of crusts that bleed. You wake up biting your own hand. The loaf is half eaten now. You hide the rest, not from thieves, but from hope. Because if this is all that's left of the sacred, what happens when it runs out? It used to knock. The cart. You remember that, vaguely, like the sound of an old prayer or your mother's lullaby. A soft knock at the gate. 1, maybe 2 times. Polite, almost gentle. And then the voice, muffled, weary, yet somehow still reverent. Bring out your dead. And people did, wrapped in sheets, shrouded in dignity, if not in linen. They'd be placed carefully, sometimes with a coin, sometimes with a flower. Once, just once, you saw a woman kiss the forehead of her husband before letting him go. But that was early, back when people still counted. back when death was an event, not a tide. Now, the cart doesn't knock. It doesn't need to. It knows. You hear it in the gray hour, not quite dawn, not quite night. That strange in-between where dreams and smells and dread all blend together. It creaks, slowly, reluctantly, as if even it's tired, as if the wheels carry not just bodies, but guilt. You don't open your door. No one does. Because if the cart stops outside your house, it means it knows something you don't. Yet. Or worse, it knows something you're trying to forget. It rattles past. Wood on stone. A hollow, dragging moan of splinter and burden. You glimpse it through the cracked shutter. There's no driver. Or maybe there is, but you never see their face. They wear a hood, or a scarf, or a mask of wood. No one's sure. No one asks. The bodies aren't wrapped anymore. They pile now, stacked like meat in a butcher's cart, though not as fresh. Arms dangling, eyes open, legs bent the wrong way. Flies buzz, not with urgency, but routine. They've made this cart their home. One body falls off. The cart doesn't stop. It just rolls on. Someone will drag the corpse back later. Or not. What's one more? You step outside, carefully, like the air might bite. The cart turns the corner. Silence returns. You walk to the fallen body. You don't want to look, but you do. You always do. It's a boy, 13, maybe 15. His face is frozen in something like surprise, or anger, or sleep. One shoe is missing. His shirt is stained, not with blood, but with something worse, the color of slow dying. You back away. Your stomach twists, not from disgust, but from recognition. You knew him, not his name, but his laugh. He once threw a rock at your roof and ran. Now he's rotting on your doorstep. You think about dragging him back, but your hands stay still, because touching the dead, that's an invitation, not to mourning, but to joining. So you light a candle, not for him, for you, to remind yourself that you're still warm, still breathing, still here, for now. The next morning the cart doesn't come. It's the first time in weeks. And that, somehow, is more terrifying than the sound of its wheels. You wonder, has the driver died? Has the village run out of bodies? Or worse, has the cart given up? You step outside. Nothing. No tracks. No scent of rot in the air. Just wind. And birds. Birds? You stare up. A blackbird on the roof. Alive. You cry. Not because of joy, but because you've forgotten what hope smells like. And now, it scares you. You go back inside. The boy is still there. You cover him with a sheet. It's all you can do. She's whispering, not to you, not to God, to someone else. Someone who isn't there. You lie still on the straw mat, eyes open, breath shallow, pretending not to hear, because acknowledging it would make it real. And real things are dangerous now. Real things come with fever, with blood, with questions no one wants answered. She sits near the hearth, arms wrapped around her knees like a child. The fire's long dead, but she stares into the ashes like they're glowing, like something is speaking from the cinders. Maybe it is. You hear her murmur again, a name. You recognize it. It's your daughter's, but she's gone. 3 weeks now, buried shallow and alone under a sky that didn't even bother to cloud over. No priest, no candle, just dirt, tears, and the sound of your wife's scream being swallowed by the wind. Since then, the house has grown, crowded, not with people, with presences. She says she sees them. At first, you argued, told her grief plays tricks, told her the dead are gone, and that's mercy. But then she described your brother's limp, the way he used to scratch his beard when he lied. She hadn't seen him in 10 years. You hadn't told her he died last week. Now she prays in a language you don't recognize. Latin, maybe, or something older. Sometimes her voice is soft, like a lullaby. Other times it sharpens, like she's bargaining or warning. Last night, she traced symbols in the dirt. You wiped them away. She wept, but not like a widow, like a prophet denied an audience. You try to rationalize it. Maybe it's the hunger. Maybe the bread was cursed. Maybe the fever touched her mind and left before it burned the body. Or maybe the dead just want company. You remember stories, old ones, of saints who spoke with angels, of villagers who heard the voices of the martyred. You used to mock those tales. Now you envy them. At least they knew who was talking. You don't. You only know the house feels different now, heavier. Sometimes it smells like her mother's perfume, lilac and smoke. Sometimes you hear footsteps where no one walks. The shadows move wrong. The air bends, not with heat, but with memory. You wake one night to find her standing in the corner, facing the wall, listening. You ask what she hears. She says, "They're waiting." You don't ask for what. The next day, she gives away the last of your food to the boy next door. His mother's dead. He hasn't spoken in days. She tells you, it's not for him. It's for who he'll be when he remembers kindness. You don't argue, because the ghosts, if they're ghosts, seem to like her calm. And you're starting to wonder if she's the only sane one left. She talks to them again that evening, but this time she's laughing, just a little. You haven't heard that sound since before the first cough, and somehow it hurts more than all the silence. You go outside, sit on the step. The air is cold, the sky yellow-gray. Somewhere, a child is crying. You close your eyes, and for just a moment, you think you hear your daughter's voice, not calling, just breathing. You don't go back inside right away. Some conversations aren't meant for you. The chapel door is locked from the outside, a heavy beam nailed into place with trembling hands and borrowed courage. No one saw the priest leave, but everyone knows he's gone. Some say he fled at dusk, carrying only a satchel of salted meat and a relic he claimed was from St. Jude. Others whisper he never left, that his body still lies inside, curled at the foot of the altar, mouth open in silent confession. But no one checks, because the church, once the heart of the village, is now a sealed tomb of faith, of leadership, of certainty. You walk past it every morning, and every morning the candle is lit. No one admits to lighting it. You've asked. Marta swore on her dead husband's grave it wasn't her. Old Thomas can't even walk. Your wife just smiled and said, "It's not important who, only that it still burns." That frightens you more than if she'd confessed, because if no one is lighting it, and it's still burning, then you've entered a different kind of story, one with no saints, just watchers. You peer through a crack in the wood. Inside, the pews are dust-covered and splintered. Rats scurry across the stone floor. The crucifix above the altar hangs crooked, as if ashamed. But the flame, that soft orange flicker, dances steady in the darkness. Not defiant, just present. You remember the priest's voice, gravelly, condescending, always reminding you to tithe more, confess louder, fear deeper. He smelled of wine and roses and sweat. He used to say, "God watches all, especially the unworthy." He said that to your daughter once, when she asked why animals died without sin. Now God's silence is louder than ever, and yet the rituals persist. You've seen them. Marta, dropping a wilted flower on the chapel steps. A child drawing a cross in the dirt with a stick, then erasing it like a secret. Your wife, whispering Amen in her sleep. Not because they believe, but because belief used to give shape to the horror. And habits, especially the sacred ones, die slower than bodies. You start to feel something strange. Not comfort, not fear, but reverence. Not for God, for the memory of God, for the way faith used to hold the walls up, keep the sky from falling, for the way the sound of a bell could make death feel like a doorway instead of a pit. Now, there is no bell, only silence. And that damned candle. You want to blow it out, end the farce, declare this village godless, abandoned, doomed. But your hand doesn't move, because some part of you, the old part, the child part, still thinks maybe that flame is the only thing holding the plague at bay, that if it goes out, something worse begins. So you leave it. You walk home. That night, in a dream, you see the chapel door open. The priest is inside, but his eyes are black, and the candle floats. You wake up shaking, and swear you smell incense. Your child died yesterday. It wasn't sudden. You watched it happen, slowly, painfully. Fever, then cough, then that strange rattling breath like someone trying to speak underwater. Eyes wide, skin pale, fingers clutching your sleeve like you were the only thing anchoring them to this world. And then, nothing. You held them for hours after, because letting go meant it was real. But today you've become something else, not a parent, a suspect. It starts with a glance. Your neighbor, Agnes, wrinkled, brittle, devout. She sees you walking from the well. Her eyes narrow. She crosses herself, not just once, 3 times, slowly, like she's warding off more than disease. Then it's Thomas. He doesn't speak, just coughs into his hand and stares. Long, too long. You nod. He doesn't nod back. You carry the bucket home. The water tastes like accusation. You try to ignore it. But then someone leaves a sprig of rosemary on your doorstep. Not for cooking, for cleansing, for banishment. You don't sleep that night. Your wife says nothing. She barely speaks these days, but you feel her watching you, like she's counting your breaths, like she's waiting for a sign. Of what? That you're next, or that you were first? You remember the cough, your own, 2 nights ago, brief, dry, meaningless. But they heard it, and now they wonder. Did you bring it into the house? Did you cough before the child fell ill? Were you careless? Were you cursed? You bury your face in your hands, because part of you wonders too. The lines blur quickly in plague time, between accident and sin, between grief and guilt. You go outside. The village is quieter than usual, not silent, just muffled, like it's listening. You pass the chapel. The candle is still burning, but today it flickers, unsteady. You reach the square. There are others, standing, not speaking, just there. You recognize their faces. Marta, whose son died last week. Gerald, whose wife vanished into the woods and never came back. And Agnes. She steps forward. You buried the child alone. You nod. No priest. There is no priest. No witness. I didn't want one. Silence. Then someone whispers, "He coughed." Your heart stutters. Another voice, "I saw him at the bakery. He touched the bread." A third, "The child was fine until he got close." It spirals fast. Whispers turn to murmurs, murmurs to muttering. You back away, hands raised. "I carried my child," you say. "I fed them. I prayed." "So did we," Agnes spits, "and ours still died." She steps forward, holding something, a stone. Not large, but large enough. Your mouth is dry. Your legs, lead. You think of running. But where? There's nowhere left to flee. And then, a voice, your wife, from behind you. She lit the candle. Everyone turns. What? She's the one lighting the candle. Every morning. Agnes frowns. That's blasphemy. No, your wife says. It's mercy. She broke the lock. She prayed. She summoned them. She remembered them. The crowd wavers. Confusion, doubt, fear of the wrong kind of anger. And in that hesitation, you slip away, back home, lock the door, breathe, just breathe. Later, your wife sits beside you. She takes your hand. Don't listen to them, she says. But her grip is loose, like she's not sure either. You stare at your palms, the hands that held your child, the hands that buried them, the hands that touched the bread. And you wonder, how many ways can one person die? And how many of them are still breathing? It begins at dusk, the hour when shadows stretch long and promises break. You're sitting by the window, watching the sky turn the color of old blood. There's no wind, no bird song, just that thick, syrupy quiet, the kind that feels like the air is holding its breath. Then it happens. A scream. One. Sharp. Sudden. Human. You freeze. It's not the scream of pain, not physical at least. It's deeper, more primal. A sound pulled from a part of the soul that most people never touch. The part reserved for losing a child, a spouse, yourself. You stand. So does your wife. The scream echoes, then another, this time from the other side of the village, higher, younger, then a third, and a fourth. Soon, they're overlapping, weaving together in a kind of broken chorus. Not in unison, but in solidarity. Grief in harmony. A howl of communal undoing. You step outside. The air is heavy, thick with smoke from cooking fires that were never lit. Somewhere a door slams, a pot shatters, a baby wails, and the screaming, it doesn't stop. It grows. You see them now. Figures moving through the streets. Women mostly. Barefoot. Hair loose. Eyes wild. Some claw at their own skin. Others fall to their knees and wail until their voices crack like glass. One woman drags a cradle behind her, empty, splintering on the stones. A man punches the wall of the chapel until his knuckles bleed. Another hurls a Bible into the well. No one stops them, because everyone understands. When the body can't carry the weight of sorrow, it spills. Out the mouth, out the fists, out into the night. You join them, not screaming, just walking, past the bakery, past the well, past a child curled in the dirt, asleep or gone. It no longer matters. The sound follows you. It's not just noise anymore. It's an atmosphere, a tide, a new kind of air. The village doesn't have prayers now. It has this, a scream for the unburied, for the unforgiven, for the unheard. And somehow, it helps. You don't know why, but it does. Because silence is too dangerous. It invites thought, and thought invites despair. But this storm of human sound, it drowns out the worst things. The things inside, the things behind closed doors and inside empty cribs. You close your eyes and listen to a lullaby made of madness, to the only music left. You sit on the chapel steps. Someone's beside you. You don't look. You don't need to. You both scream, not in fear, in release. And it feels almost holy. Your pantry used to be a place of comfort, not abundance. No one in this village has known that word in years. But at least it held predictability. Sacks of grain, a strip of dried meat, a turnip that looked like it regretted growing. Small things, familiar things. Now, It's a crime scene. You open the door and the smell hits first. Not immediately. It creeps. Like an insult whispered from a dark corner. A cocktail of mildew, rodent, and something sweeter. The rot that pretends to be edible just long enough to betray you. The grain sack is open. You didn't leave it that way. You kneel, cautiously, and peer inside. Movement. Not subtle, not shy. A rat stares back at you. Bold, fat, smug. He doesn't run. He blinks, chews, and turns his back, like a roommate who knows you won't evict him. You don't scream. You've used up your screams. You just close the sack, tight. Maybe he'll suffocate, but you know better. They don't die. Not the rats. Not until everyone else does. You reach for the bread. It's hard again, but not dry. You squeeze it and something oozes from the crust. You drop it. Your hands smell like mold and regret. And still, your stomach growls. Because hunger doesn't care. You cut a slice. Eat around the soft part. Convince yourself that the bitterness is just old flour. Not fungus. Not decay. You chew slowly. Each bite a negotiation between memory and instinct. Your skin itches. You scratch. Then again. A red patch just below your elbow. Raised. Warm. Pulsing with discomfort. You tell yourself it's the straw mattress. The cold. The soap you haven't used in a week. But then you notice another. On your side. And one behind your knee. Not large. Not yet. Your breath quickens. You tell yourself it's not that. Not the sign. Not the mark. But you remember. Your neighbor had one behind her ear. Before the fever. Before the blood. You pour water into a bowl and look at your reflection. Pale. Greasy. Your lips are cracked. Your eyes are sunken. Your neck. Clear. You whisper, "Not yet." The door creaks behind you. Your wife. She's holding something. Meat. Or what's left of it. She found it in the cellar. Wrapped in cloth. Salted weeks ago. It smells confusing. Your nose says no. Your stomach begs yes. You eat it together. In silence. Chewing slowly. Avoiding each other's eyes. Halfway through, you both stop. Look at the meat. Then at each other. Then at the bucket. Later, you take turns vomiting. In the yard. Not out of illness. Out of knowing. And still, some part of you wants to keep what's left. Just in case. The night is worse. The rats are louder now. Not scurrying. Marching. Like they own the walls. The rashes itch. You don't sleep. You count breaths. Your own. Your wife's. You're still here. But the pantry is gone. And the skin is no longer your ally. It's just another thing you're trying to survive. You are still here. Somehow. The cough never came. The rash faded. The rats moved on. Even the bread, the last twisted hunk of it, was eaten days ago, and your body didn't revolt. Not loudly, at least. The village is quiet again. But not the silence of tension. Not the held breath before collapse. This is the silence after. After the screaming stopped. After the cart stopped coming. After people stopped asking who was next. Now, there is no one next. Just you. You sit on the doorstep. The stone is warm, finally. The sun, weak and apologetic, touches your face like it barely remembers how. You look down the street, windows boarded, doors ajar, a doll in the mud, a pot turned over, a shoe, small, untied. These things remain, little relics of life, of people who once shouted, prayed, kissed, cursed. You think of your child's laugh, your wife's hair, the way your neighbor snored so loudly you could hear it through the walls. Gone, all of it. And yet, here you are. You wait. You don't know for what. Not rescue, not salvation. Just something, a sound, a breeze, a voice, anything that says, this didn't all happen for nothing. Behind you, the house smells like dust and smoke and old skin. Inside, the bed is still rumpled. You haven't touched it, not since she stopped breathing. You talk to her sometimes, not out loud, just enough to stay sane, or just enough to go mad slowly. What's the difference now? You rise, walk to the chapel, the door is still barred, but the candle, still burning? It shouldn't be, but it is. You sit, cross-legged, like a child in school, and you watch the flame. It flickers, then steadies. You whisper, Amen. Not because you believe, but because some words deserve to be said again, just once more, just in case. You stay there as the sun sets, and when darkness comes, you don't light another flame. You don't cry. You don't pray. You just breathe, because that's what remains. After the world ends, breath, memory, and maybe, if the plague allows it, hope.